Hey, Mama, and welcome back to the Strong and Nourished Mama podcast. I am so happy that you're here today. We are going to be diving into some juicy, juicy stuff in this episode. So I'm really happy that you're with me because we're talking about protein. We are going to be breaking down how much protein you actually need postpartum and why it's one of the most powerful tools when it comes to healing, strength, milk supply, and even fat loss. I would say that most of the women that I work with, and especially postpartum moms, are not getting enough protein. And sometimes when we're thinking about protein, it feels like it's a second full-time job and we don't have the capacity, we don't have the time to make it a priority. But let me tell you, when you do, and there are easy ways to do this, and I'm going to share that with you today. When you make protein a priority, it changes everything, Mama. So let's get into it. Feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and like you've lost yourself in the postpartum chaos, struggling to rebuild your strength, heal your core, and feel confident in your body again? Hey Mama, I'm Val, a functional sports dietitian, postpartum fitness coach, and a mama who understands exactly what you're going through. Welcome to the Strong and Nourished Mama podcast, where I help busy moms like you regain your energy, rebuild strength, and feel amazing through simple, science-backed nutrition and fitness strategies. If you're ready to go from depleted to strong, nourished, and unstoppable, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Happy August. I am so happy that it is finally August because I have been waiting so long to share this with you. The Strong, Nourished, and Energized Mom Method is finally open for enrollment. Woo! This is my 8-week program designed specifically for postpartum moms who are ready to rebuild their core and pelvic floor, get their energy back, and feel confident and strong in their bodies again without dieting, overwhelm, or spending hours working out. And it doesn't matter when you had your baby. You could have had your baby 6 weeks ago, 4 months ago, 2 years ago, or 5+ years. This is what you need, Mama, to feel confident, energized, and strong again. Inside the program, you're going to get safe, effective workouts under 60 minutes that you can do at home or in the gym, nutrition guidance and meal plans tailored to support postpartum recovery and real busy mom life, core and pelvic floor training to heal, get strong, and move without leaking or pain, habit and mindset coaching so you can stay consistent even when life gets busy, and ongoing support from me every single week so you're never going to be doing this alone. If you've been feeling depleted, frustrated with your core, or like you just can't stay consistent, this program was made for you, Mama. It's everything I wish I had after having my baby. The exact steps to go from exhausted and overwhelmed to strong, nourished, and energized again. Enrollment is open right now. You can join us at wellnessbyval.com/program. Let's do this together. Whether you want to heal faster, feel more energized, build strength, build muscle, lose fat, this episode is your crash course in exactly how much protein you need, why it matters, and how to make it doable in your real life mama schedule. First, full disclaimer, this information shared in this episode and all episodes of the podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. And while I am a registered dietitian, I may not be your personal dietitian. So always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare providers with any questions that you may have regarding a medical condition or before making changes to your diet, your exercise, your health routine. If you're wanting to work one-on-one together, I have very limited openings for one-on-ones right now, but you can still apply at wellnessbyval.com/nutrition. But really, to get connected with me, to be able to work with me, it's going to be inside my group coaching program. So go to wellnessbyval.com/program to be able to join the program, and then we can start working together. During my pregnancy, I really made protein a priority, and I am so happy that I did because, of course, during pregnancy, I was lifting, I was exercising, I was growing a human. I was exercising 5 to 6 days a week. I was doing resistance training probably 4 times a week, and I needed the protein for myself, but I also needed it for my baby girl. But it also made things easier going in postpartum because I knew, hey, I need the protein. And when I really started making it a priority postpartum, not just in meals, but in snacks and everything that I was consuming, I noticed a huge difference after I had my baby. I felt more satisfied after meals. My milk production felt more stable. I had better energy. I wasn't experiencing low blood sugar. And once I started adding in strength training again, of course, I started with the basics, the foundations, and then I would walk and I would do body weight. I would do everything that I'm going to be teaching you in the program and then progressive overload with my strength training. I actually started to see changes in my body composition. I was getting my muscle back. I was getting my strength back. And that's what I want for you too. I want you to be able to fuel in a way that actually supports your recovery and your goals. So let's dive in. Protein is more. It's much more than a gym bro nutrient, okay? It's not like, oh my gosh, you need all this protein and you're going to get jacked. And I hear that from women all the time, like, oh, I don't want to take creatine. I don't want to lift weights. I don't want to eat a lot of protein because I don't want to get bulky. I should save this for another episode, but just quick side note, it's going to be really, really, really freaking hard to get bulky, all right? And postpartum, we need protein postpartum, okay? It is crucial during this period. It's crucial for all stages of life, one of them being growing your baby, but especially after you have your baby, we cannot neglect it. Postpartum, your body is literally rebuilding. It's rebuilding tissue, blood, muscles, hormones. You're healing, you're recovering, you're breastfeeding. It's producing an entire food source for another human being. Like, how wild is that? That's so cool. But here's why protein is non-negotiable during this time. It's going to help repair and rebuild tissues after birth, whether you had a vaginal birth or a cesarean birth. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to have those amino acids for tissue repair and to rebuild. We have our essential amino acids, the amino acids that you have to get from the diet. You cannot make them in the body. You have to get them from the diet. And then, of course, your non-essential amino acids, you'll be able to make endogenously. You can get them from the diet, of course, but you can make your non-essential amino acids inside the body. Now, even those who had a fairly easy labor and birth with no tearing, protein is still going to be critical. It's still going to be crucial for recovery and for rebuilding after having your baby, because everything is growing and stretching as you're growing your baby. And after you have your baby, everything needs to go back to its normal size. Everything needs to heal and recover. Protein's also going to support milk production because breast milk contains protein as well. It's going to keep your blood sugar more stable, so you're not going to get these super highs and these really, really low lows. So that's going to help with mood, energy, those 3 p.m. crashes. It's going to be essential. And most importantly, I wouldn't say most importantly, but I think it's very, very, very important. All of this is important. But protein is going to preserve lean muscle mass. It's going to preserve skeletal muscle mass. And building or maintaining muscle is essential for strength and metabolism. So, of course, that's going to be long-term. We're thinking down the line. But even in that moment, when you're taking care of your baby after you had your baby, you're doing things around the house, you're going back to work, you're starting to add in movement. We want to make sure that we're preserving muscle mass. I've said this before on the podcast, and I want you to let me know. Reach out to me. Send me a DM on Instagram because I need to know if other moms felt the same way. After I had my baby, I felt like I was in a body cast. Like everything was being sucked out of me. I had no muscle. I was like, where is all of my muscle? Like I literally I have nothing. I have no muscle. And it's because this high metabolic demand after you have your baby, because you grew a human, right? All of the nutrients, everything was going to your baby. You have all of your energy while it's like a very, very intense workout when you're in labor and giving birth. And you have this high metabolic demand postpartum. And if we're not getting enough calories, we're not getting enough protein, and of course our other micros and macros, then our body will start to use its muscle stores. That is no bueno. Our body's like, oh, don't have enough calories over here, but you know what I have? I have some stored muscle. Let's use that. And that's not going to be good for you. And then, of course, if you're breastfeeding, that's not going to be good if you're breastfeeding. Protein's also going to play a major role in fat loss. So especially if you're working out, when you're done breastfeeding and you want to lose weight, you want to lose fat mass, you're going to need protein. You're going to need protein. So when it's an appropriate time to focus on fat loss, protein is going to become your bestie. Protein is involved in everything. The amino acids are involved in so many different biochemical reactions throughout the body. You're going to need protein, of course, for all of the things that we just discussed. But something that I didn't mention is neurotransmitter production, and it's going to play a vital role, of course, in your energy. And most women are not getting enough protein. They're not. They're not getting it enough before they got pregnant. They're definitely not getting enough while they're pregnant or even postpartum. Postpartum is the fourth trimester. So those first 3 months after you have your baby is a very, very high metabolic demanding time frame in a woman's life. And so is pregnancy, of course. But oftentimes the postpartum period, especially those first 3 months, the fourth trimester, we're neglected. We're neglecting ourselves. We're not giving our body the love that it needs. And if you are, that is amazing. And if you're listening to this and you're like, man, you know what? I haven't been doing that. That's okay, because you can start today. You can start with the next meal. That's what's so cool about this. So protein is a healing, energy-giving, fat-burning nutrient. And most moms are barely scratching the surface on how much they actually need. So how much do you actually need? As people ask me this question all the time, how much protein do I need? How much protein do I need? Well, let's talk about it. The RDA, the recommended daily allowance, is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram. Okay, that is minimum. So that is the absolute lowest you want to consume. Okay, that doesn't mean you should be there. That does not mean you should be there. So this is the amount that is really not for health and longevity, especially when you're thinking pregnancy and postpartum. So most women may say, oh, just get around 50 to 60. They may be told get 50 to 60 grams per day, or, depending on their weight in kilos, and then you multiply that by 0.8. They're like, oh, that's plenty. But that is based on outdated recommendations, and it is not for someone who just had a baby, and especially who is breastfeeding or who's trying to recover and build strength. That's not even for someone who isn't pregnant or breastfeeding or postpartum. Okay, so why are we going to do that? That is like the bare minimum of protein that we would want is 0.8 grams of protein per kilo. But I don't want you to pay attention to that. A small study was done in 11 healthy women, so it's a very, very small study, in 2020 to assess protein needs for postpartum moms who were breastfeeding. And the researchers tested different amounts of protein intakes to see if they could find out the most appropriate protein intake minimum compared to the RDA. They found that 1.7 to 1.9 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day was the minimum of protein that for intake that they would recommend for a postpartum mom who is breastfeeding. So if you look at the RDA, it's 0.8 grams per kilo. And this study, of course, is very small, looking at postpartum moms who are breastfeeding. They found that the minimum amount of protein would be 1.7 to 1.9 grams of protein per kilogram. So if you're wanting to figure this out, you divide your weight by 2.2 to get kilos, and then you would multiply that by 1.7 or 1.8 or 1.9, right? You can do anything in between there. Here's a better guideline. If you know your lean mass pre-pregnancy, of course, you're not going to do it right after you had your baby. You're not going to go do a body comp. That is not something I would recommend. But maybe a year postpartum, you do it, okay? Maybe you're done breastfeeding 3 months postpartum and you want to start getting back into the gym and you're feeling recovered and you're going to do progressive overload, then that may be an appropriate time to do it. But we're looking at, not at fat mass, we're looking at lean body mass. Now, lean body mass is everything but your fat. So, of course, it's your skeletal muscle. It's also going to be the water. It's going to be your skin. It's going to be organs, other tissues. Like, it's going to be everything but your fat. Okay. So if you know your pre-pregnancy lean body mass, then that's going to be about 1 to 1.4 grams per pound of body weight. Okay. Now, if you don't know that, which I would say a lot of people probably don't, then aim for about 1.5 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So let's go through an example. If someone's lean mass, they had their lean mass pre-pregnancy, if it was 100 pounds, then that range would be 100 to 140 grams of protein per day to support lean mass, okay? Meaning we want to make sure we don't lose any. And if the person wanted to start building and losing fat mass, then you would of course go to the higher end. Now, if we didn't know lean mass and the person's weight is 150 pounds, that is 68 kilograms, and that's about 102 to 136 grams of protein per day. Now, this is typically going to be on the lower end, right? So this is a range, but this is going to be on the lower end because if you're breastfeeding, you're very active, you're starting to exercise, you're lifting weights, you're strength training, you're doing all of these different things, you're asking your body more. You're going to want to be on the higher end, okay? So this is super individualized, and it really depends on what you're doing and where you're currently at too. So I'm almost 2 years postpartum, and I try to consume 130 to 150 grams of protein per day. I don't track every single day. I don't even track every single week or every single month, but I know in what I'm eating, I'm protein focused. I'm making it a priority, and I know that I'm getting around 130 to 150 grams. Some days I may be a little bit lower, and other days I may be a little bit higher. And that may sound like a lot when you're like, oh my gosh, 130 to 150 grams of protein per day. Like, what the heck? But when you break it down into meals, into snacks, it becomes way more doable. So, for example, if your goal is to get 120 grams per day, we want to first see how much you're consuming. If the goal is 120 and you're getting 50, we're not going to just go to 120 all of a sudden. Okay, we're going to slowly work our way up there. But something that can be doable is let's aim for 30 grams of protein at each meal, because we know that about 30 grams of protein is going to be what's needed to stimulate muscle protein synthesis to preserve that lean mass. So 30 grams of protein at each meal, and then maybe 2 snacks with 15 grams of protein, or 1 snack with 30 grams of protein, okay? And no, you do not have to weigh or track every single bite. I do not recommend that. I want you to be able to be intuitive with what you're eating, what you're fueling your body, what is your body communicating with you. There may be a point where you want to track like a typical day or two just to see, am I getting enough? Getting curious, like, what can I add to my diet? Not what can I restrict and what can I take away? And you're definitely not going to be doing that every single day. So something to start with is just being aware of how much protein is on your plate and the foods providing you protein. Can you identify your protein source or sources on your plate? And then start to build your meals around that. So slowly increasing the amounts. Now, how do you hit your protein goals? Let's talk about practical ways to get more protein in without spending hours in the kitchen or eating plain chicken all day. Sometimes I'm like, I am sick of chewing. I don't want to do this. First, focus on animal protein. Pregnancy and postpartum is not the time to be vegan or vegetarian, okay? You're going to do what you're going to do, and that's okay. But because you're missing key nutrients, okay, other than protein, like B12, iron, things that are going to be necessary to grow a human and also to physically and mentally recover. Something that I talked about in May for Mental Health Awareness Month in the mood food boosting episode is that your B vitamins, especially postpartum, you're going to be very depleted in your Bs along with so many other nutrients. But women who are experiencing anxiety, depression, low mood, they typically have low B vitamin stores, okay? And they're not getting enough through their diet. So this may not be an appropriate time to be vegan or vegetarian. And if that is something that you're doing, you definitely want to be strategic in what you're eating. But the animal foods are going to not only provide protein with all of the amino acids. So your animal protein is giving you all of the essential, non-essential. It's giving all the amino acids, which is awesome. But it's also going to provide collagen. And that's going to be necessary for rebuilding and recovering tissues. It's going to contain other vitamins and minerals to help with that recovery. And of course, if you want to focus on getting in plant foods, like I'm here for that. I don't believe that we should restrict. I think that we need to get in animal foods as well as our plant foods because those are giving you so many other types of nutrients as well as fiber. So if you are vegan, if you're vegetarian, please be sure to work one-on-one with a dietitian, a provider, to make sure that you're getting what you need. So let's talk about building meals around protein. Here's some examples. Breakfast, eggs, turkey sausage, a slice of avocado toast, or maybe you pair some fruit with it on the side, like some berries. That is a very balanced, high protein breakfast. Your eggs are going to contain about 6-7 grams of protein per egg. Okay, it's not a lot. But if you had like 3 eggs with some turkey sausage and then like whole grain toast, or maybe instead of whole grain toast, you did like Greek yogurt with berries, you're definitely going to be hitting that 30 grams of protein. I do protein overnight oats on the mornings I go into the office because it's hectic, it's busy, I just need to grab something and go. So I'm, of course, getting a little bit of protein from the animal or the plant foods that I'm adding in. I'm getting some protein I put soy milk, and then I'm adding collagen and I'm adding whey protein powder to be able to get like 45 grams of protein in my overnight oats. Lunch, maybe it's leftover chicken stir fry with rice, veggies, avocado. Dinner, maybe it's salmon, quinoa, roasted veggies. These all sound delicious. Maybe it's a smoothie. You put protein powder, almond peanut butter, one or the other. Maybe you do a little bit of both. I don't know what your jam is. Banana, frozen berries, spinach or kale, ginger. I've been putting beets in my smoothies. I love it so much because I'm not like a beet person. It's very earthy, but I know how nutrient dense beets are. And so I'm like, how can I sneak them in? So I've been getting fresh beets, cutting them up, putting them in the freezer, and then I put a little chunk piece in my smoothie, and it's absolutely delicious. But that's a little side note. But to get protein in your smoothie, you can put Greek yogurt, you can put protein powder to be able to pack it in. And I don't want you to underestimate snacks either. So think mini meals that still give you about 15, 20 grams of protein. And some examples can be cottage cheese with fruit, Greek yogurt with chia seeds or ground flax seeds with fruit, beef sticks, nuts, string cheese. I love doing a beef stick with pistachios and a peach. So, so good. Hard-boiled eggs, whole grain crackers, hummus, veggies. Maybe do hummus and edamame. That's a great protein source. So there's so many different ways to sneak it in. And of course, you can add in those convenience options when you need. I mean, you're a mom. Life is busy. It is hectic. I rely on convenience foods quite a bit. And there's so many great products out there. Of course, there's products that aren't so great either, but you can find things that are going to be really supportive for a life that is on the go. So protein shakes, of course, rotisserie chicken, like if that can be like an easy dinner. Deli turkey, hard-boiled eggs. Some stores are going to have them already made, so that's going to save so much time. Protein bars, different types of protein bars when needed. I encourage my clients to stock up on these things that they like before they have their baby. So when it is that early postpartum period, it's super accessible. And then whether you're 6 months, a year plus, your kids are 10 years old, whatever, you really want to focus on these quick snacks that can be super supportive as well as nutrient dense. And we're also want to think protein. And if needed, there's nothing wrong supplementing your protein. As I said, I put protein powder in my overnight oats. I typically have a protein shake every single day. I put protein powder in my smoothies. So there's nothing wrong with using protein powder. I just want you to make sure that it's a high quality protein powder. Okay. So it's not just like some random thing that you found at Costco or Amazon or whatever. Like we want to make sure that it's high quality. So this can be a really great tool. I don't want you to use it as meal replacement. So if you're having protein shakes multiple times a day, so multiple servings of your protein powder a day, we really need to look at that. Some things that I like to recommend: grass-fed whey or a good plant-based option if dairy doesn't work for you. So in the program, that's definitely something we're going to be talking about. So here are some common questions that I get. Can I eat too much protein? Unless you're eating extreme amounts, like I would say over 200 grams. Like I can't, even the thought of 170 grams of protein is like, oh my gosh, that sounds exhausting. But if you're getting extreme amounts, your body uses what it needs. It's going to excrete what it doesn't, okay? Or it's going to store. It's going to store what it doesn't sometimes, depending on what's going on. But most of us aren't getting that, okay? Most of us are not eating over 200 grams of protein per day. As I mentioned, most moms are going to be severely under eating protein. So something to think about. What if I don't eat meat? That is totally fine. I'm not saying that you can't be vegan or vegetarian. I'm not saying that you have to eat meat. I'm just letting you know that animal foods are going to have all of the amino acids, but you can still get protein in other ways. So if you're a vegetarian where you're eating eggs and dairy, that is awesome because that's an easier way to get that protein. But of course, you're going to get legumes, tofu, tempeh, whole grains, plant-based protein powders. These are all things that I use. Like I'm not completely cutting out plant foods at all. I still have legumes and edamame, beans, tofu, whole grains. You can definitely mix them together if you do meat, but if you don't, those can be some things that you can eat. And then of course, if you're a pescatarian, then you're going to be relying on fish, which is going to be good. Do I have to track what I eat? That's another common question. No, you do not have to track, but building awareness does help. Okay, so if you're in a space where you feel like you can track 1 to 2 typical days to really see what your baseline is, awesome, cool. Man, I'm getting 60 grams of protein. The goal is 100. How can I slowly work up to that? Do I start with breakfast? Do I start with lunch? Do I start with dinner? But if you're not going to log or don't want to log and track it, that's okay. But we still have to be aware. A palm-sized portion of meat is going to be about 20-30 grams of protein, depending on what you're getting. One egg, about 6 grams of protein. 1 cup of Greek yogurt, about 15 to 20, 22 grams of protein. And then a scoop of protein powder, 20 to 25 grams. So you can kind of keep track of that way. Using the plate method is going to be really helpful and easy as well. And that's something that I do because I don't track every single day or every single month. I track maybe like 1 or 2 times a year, if that. So once you learn the basics, it really becomes second nature, and it's really nice. Okay, let's recap real quick. Protein is a powerhouse nutrient for postpartum healing, energy, strength, and fat loss. Most moms need 100 to 150 grams of protein per day, depending on goals, activities, breastfeeding. Of course, it depends on how tall you are, and it's very individualized. That's a really big range, but I just gave you some calculations that you probably could do on your own. Focus on building meals and snacks around protein-rich foods, and you don't have to be perfect. We just have to be consistent. And if you want to eat a burger, that's okay, because guess what? That has protein. I still eat out and I still enjoy fun foods, and I was able to support my milk, my recovery, and eventually lose fat and build muscle without restricting. So I don't want you to think that you have to be perfect. You can't eat this, you can't eat that, and you only can eat protein. There's definitely a balanced way to go about this. So I don't want you to feel like you have to restrict or eat this perfect way. Just focus on staying consistent. Meeting your protein needs postpartum doesn't have to be complicated, and rebuilding your energy, your core, your strength, and your confidence doesn't either. Inside the Strong, Nourished, and Energized Mom method, I make it easy for you. You're going to be getting a clear plan for nutrition, quick workouts you can do at home, and coaching so you know exactly what to do next. No overwhelm, no guessing, just simple steps that fit into mom life. You can start today at wellnessbyval.com/program. I cannot wait to see you there. Thanks for being here, Mama. And don't forget, stay strong, stay nourished, stay energized. It's totally possible for you. Talk soon. Hey, Mama. I hope you loved today's episode. If it resonated with you, would you please take 30 seconds to share it with another mom, a mom who's looking to make healthy eating and exercise easier? Because we need that. And if you haven't yet, I would be so grateful if you could leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts. It truly means the world to me and helps the show reach more amazing moms like you. All right, time to chase my toddler around. Stay strong and nourished, and I will be back on Monday with another episode. Talk soon.